The following training provides information to faculty, staff, and students for the ordering, receiving, and entering of hazardous materials into CEMS. That is the university's chemical inventory system on campus. There are certain roles and responsibilities that are played within the system to ensure that people receive their packages, the researchers receive their packages in a timely manner. Main receiving, basically they initially receive packages and then transport the chemicals to the laboratory within 24 hours on the days Monday through Friday. For SMAST and CIE, those chemicals are delivered directly to those locations. The ordering personnel, basically anybody who goes into the byway system to purchase chemicals, they may purchase them for a professor who who's responsible for the lab and the chemicals being purchased. They provide the vendor with the appropriate information for the proper ordering, shipping, and final storage location. The responsible owner, which would be the faculty member, the principal investigator, he or she is responsible for the receipt of the hazardous material into the storage location and ensuring that barcodes are affixed to the chemicals upon arrival. Ordering chemicals through byways. All chemical purchases are to be performed through byways. Professors and technicians must have completed this training prior to purchasing chemicals through byways. Any attempt to purchase chemicals through byways before having the training will be rejected. When entering the information, ensure that you provide the owner of the laboratory's location. That would be the building and the room number. So it'd be both building and the room number, like science and engineering 108. Have to provide all the information. Commodity code. You want to ensure that you use the commodity code chemicals/gases/demurrage and gas cylinder when you enter it into the byways. You must also enter the quantity, either in kilograms, liters, or subunits of those. It must be included in the purchase requisition, somewhere within that purchase requisition. Ultimately, the byways purchase requisition will be approved by EH&S if it's acceptable. All chemicals are to be delivered to the main receiving. Main receiving will deliver the chemicals to the laboratory from there. So the chemicals would show up either via FedEx, UPS, whatever, and then it would go to main receiving, and then from main receiving, it would be delivered to the laboratory as specified on the package, the building location and the room number. Packages may not be delivered directly to departmental offices. In other words, you can't have it delivered to your office or to the departmental office, like the chemistry department. They can't go in there. It has to go into a lab. Chemicals may not be left in unsecure locations, such as in hallways. They can't have the chemical sitting on a loading dock, cannot have it sitting in a hallway. It has to go into the laboratory and delivered directly there. It should be noted that chemicals may only be transported in university vehicles. All other vehicle transportation would be unacceptable and actually illegal. The following procedure is what you would use to actually order the chemicals. So we're starting from the beginning. You've just decided that you want to purchase a particular chemical, say sulfuric acid, and you want to enter it into the byway system. So order all hazardous materials via the normal purchase order system, byways. It is preferable to only order CEMS inventoried substances on any one purchase order. In other words, you should not order, say, sulfuric acid with a biological material that does not require inventorying into CEMS. They have to be separate. They should be separate. Do not include supplies with CEMS inventory substances. In other words, if you decide that you're ordering from Fisher and you want to order, again, sulfuric acid, and then you also want to order some beakers or glassware, whatever, you have to do those separately. You should not put them on the same purchase requisition. Direct vendor to ship the chemicals to the following address. It has to be listed University of Massachusetts, 285 Old Westport Road, North Dartmouth, Massachusetts, 02747-2300. And you want to put attention, the responsible owner, the storage location, and if it's a researcher that's ordering it under the principal investigator, you could have that person's name. When the package is delivered to the laboratory, it must be immediately inventoried into the CEMS system. So you would need to affix a barcode to it. In order to do that, you should open the box in a fume hood, ensuring that the content is intact and that it is not damaged. If you find that you've got a leaking bottle of chemical, you should take steps to immediately decontaminate, to clean up any chemical spill inside the box. If need be, contact Environmental Health and Safety for help. You would then log into CEMS to enter the required information. Store the hazardous chemicals in a secure location, considering the need for to be refrigerated if necessary, and the potential reaction with other chemicals. So you have to consider the potential reaction between two chemicals before you store them, as you're probably aware of. The following information is required in the CEMS system when you're ordering chemicals. You want to have the chemical name, sulfuric acid, the manufacturer, distributor, Fisher Scientific, product number, the CAS number, the barcode that you will be using to affix to the chemical. You need to enter that number into the system. Owner location, say Science Violet 103. Container quantity, you need to put the amount and the units. So you'd say 250 kilograms. Then you have both the amount and units. Container type, is it a glass container? Is it a plastic container? Maybe it's a glass container in a cardboard box. So you just need to enter that information. The following are chemicals that definitely are required to be inventoried into CEMS. Flammable and combustible liquids. This would include alcohol, solvents, lubricants, paint thinners, aerosols, and paint. Flammable solids, magnesium, sodium, organometallics. Oxidizers, such as concentrated mineral acids, bromates, chlorates, permanganates. Organic peroxides, hydrogen peroxide greater than 8% or benzoyl peroxide. And then poisons, not included in the above categories, i.e. biological toxins, dyes, glazes, paints, adhesives, and specimen solutions. Continuation of this, the chemicals requiring barcode would include corrosives, such as acids and bases, which are corrosive to the skin, and other materials having a pH less than 5.5 or greater than 11. compressed gases, including liquefied gases. And then hazardous retail items bought directly from the store, either used as integral part of the function of the laboratory, paint thinners, paints, ceramic glazes, or anything that you might go out and purchase should be entered into CEMS. These are items that are not required to be inventoried. Growth media, salts, non-hazardous buffers, small quantities of chemicals and kits, such as PCR kits, materials expended within 1 to 2 days, basically working solutions, anything that's in a plastic container that you're using directly from another chemical container that's on your workbench. You don't have to barcode those. Chemicals in the amounts less than 5 milliliters or 5 milligrams. Molecular biological reagents and enzyme prep. Biological materials to include biohazardous materials. For example, plants or animal tissue, reproducing biological organisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi, and yeast. Materials stored and shipped on dry ice. In other words, if you've got a biological material that's on dry ice, you do not have to barcode it. And then retail products such as that you might use as household agents, such as cleaning solutions, dish soap. These are some examples of non-hazardous materials. Sodium chloride, sodium chloride, citric acid, trisodium salt, dihydrate, L-ascorbic acid, sodium salt, acetate buffer, phosphate buffered saline, and tris EDTA. So this is the dashboard for entering CEMS. If you have not entered CEMS yet, there is a process by which you have to log in. What you would do is you would go to this site right here, and you would click on log in. When you do that, you come to this box. And so in this case, you want to, if you've never been on CEMS before or in CEMS, you need to create an account. So you would click on create account. Then it would open up another box and you'd follow the instructions, which basically asks you to enter all the information for yourself, such as your name and so forth, location, telephone number, or email address. And you would, once you've done that and you've created your account, you need to email EH&S to notify them you requested an access account. That way, EH&S will go into the CEMS system and approve your request. So let's say you've established an account in CEMS, and you've purchased a chemical, and you wish to enter that chemical into the system. You go to the CEMS using the same link that I showed earlier. It's to the dashboard. Click on login, enter your email and password that was set up during your initial request for access. When box opens, click on submit. And what you'll see is something like this. You'll see, it'll give you your information, my profile right here. It will give you any alerts on something that needs to be addressed, and it will give you quick links. What you want to do is, if you're adding a chemical, is you go to add chemical inventory at the top of the quick link. So you go here, and it says add chemical inventory. click on that. That immediately opens this box, which is the entry box for all incoming chemicals. So enter the number on the barcode to be affixed to the chemical bottle, the chemical container. So the top one says barcode. You would enter that barcode that you plan on attaching to, say, your bottle of sulfuric acid. Then you would enter additional information. You'd either enter the product number for the chemical, which may be on the bottle or it may be on the manifest sheet, or the chemical name. Typically, if you start entering the chemical name, well, if you, let me back up. If you enter the product number, it's very possible it will provide you with the chemical name immediately. If there's some confusion on the part of the computer, it may require that you start entering the chemical name as well. So you can see here, entering the product code will potentially produce the name of the chemical associated with the product. So you can see it's giving you the information that you need. If this was your particular chemical and it agrees with the chemical listed on the bottle, then you're all set. Otherwise, if it doesn't give you a chemical name, you have to start entering the chemical name as well. So that will bring you, when you click on the next button down here, that will bring you to this site. Basically here, you're going to enter the data required on the slide. That's what I mentioned earlier. I listed everything that you needed to enter. You have to make sure you have the chemical name, the manufacturer, the product number. You don't have to worry about the safety data sheet. Where's the barcode number, the owner, location, excuse me, container size, container quantity and units, the type of container, and then you can add other additional information if you so choose. But this is what needs, in fact, here it is again. This is what needs to be entered. Chemical name, manufacturer, product number, CAS number, barcode, owner's location, container quantity, amount and units, and container type. I would like to now talk about the cost of hazardous waste disposal. The cost for the disposal of hazardous waste continues to increase. In an effort to increase transparency of waste disposal costs, the university will impose a surcharge on purchases of chemicals. The surcharge will be automatically imposed through the buy waste purchasing system and set at 23%. The funds collected from the surcharge will be placed in an account designated to cover costs of hazardous waste disposal. Let's see, a 23% surcharge automatically applied to chemical purchases. This surcharge applies to purchases with the commodity code of chemicals / gases / demurrage and gas cylinders. It is important, as I mentioned earlier, that it is imperative that you not add any supplies or any non-hazardous chemicals to this purchase requisition. If you use the commodity code listed above, chemicals, gases, so forth, if you list that and then you enter other items not associated with that, you will be charged the surcharge on those items as well as the hazardous chemicals. So you really want to make sure that you're not being charged for materials that don't need to be charged. Surcharge basics. To what items does the surcharge apply? Basically, it's only hazardous materials that are going to be inventoried into CEMS. What items are excluded from the surcharge? Supplies are not charged, and and non-hazardous chemicals such as salts, buffers, and so forth are not charged. What items are eligible for reduced surcharge? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but basically if you're ordering kits of chemical, if like a PCR kit and it has very small amount of chemicals, what will happen is EH&S will apply a different charge to that. And what will happen is you'll receive a refund on the 23%. And again, you have to realize that you do not want to place any non-hazardous chemicals or supplies on the purchase order with hazardous materials that are going to be, the surcharge is going to be applied to. Here's an example of applied surcharge. A 4-liter containing isopropyl alcohol from Rika Chemical Company costs $105. Applying the surcharge to this chemical would add $24.15 to the cost of the chemical. The $24.15 will be allocated to the disposal costs of the hazardous waste generated at the university. In other words, it will go into that separate account that I mentioned earlier. That will accumulate with other hazardous costs for other hazardous chemicals and will be used to pay for disposal of hazardous waste or help pay for it. Each month, EH&S will review and make necessary adjustments to the surcharge applied to the chemical purchases. As I indicated earlier, in some cases, if the chemicals are very small quantities, the surcharge will be adjusted. So EH&S will document any adjustments to be made to revise the surcharge from 23% down to 2.3%, and submit that documentation to A&F for review. Any reduction in surcharge amount will be refunded to the chemical owner. So you will actually, if you order kits, chemical kits with very small quantities, say a few milligrams, milliliters, then you'll receive a refund on the original 23%. And this is basically to allow for the fact that some of the kits are very expensive. It can cost upwards of $2,000–3,000 to buy a kit, and to apply a 23% surcharge on that kit can be extreme. So we would only be charging 2.3% instead on those kits. The example of a surcharge adjustment. A researcher orders a PCR kit costing $2,500 on Byways. The order is placed under the commodity code chemical/gas/demurrage and gas cylinder. The surcharge applied to that purchase would be 23% times or $575. When reviewed by EH&S, the adjustment surcharge of 2.3% would be applied to the $2,500 for a new surcharge of $57.50. The difference between the two surcharges, $517.50, would be refunded to the owner researcher's account, the principal investigator's account. So whoever purchased those chemicals would receive whoever purchased the PCR kits would be refunded that amount of money. How to remove chemicals from CEMS. So basically what happens is you bring in a chemical container into your lab. You purchase the chemical container through Byways. You go through the process of barcoding it and entering it into CEMS. Once you use up that stock material and the container is empty, and I like to say it's bone dry empty, then what you want to do is you need to peel off the barcode that you had placed on that container early on. So if a chemical container is empty and you need to discard it, ensure that before you do so, you mark the chemical container as empty in CEMS. You open CEMS to the dashboard, go into the search chemicals in the quick links and enter the barcode and click on search. This brings you to view chemical inventory. Click on the mark empty on the right side. Hit save. You have to make sure you hit save once you hit mark empty. Under no circumstance do you click on delete. So you don't want to delete the chemical. You're just marking the container as empty, and then you hit save. You remove the barcode from the container and affix to the barcode sheet near the satellite accumulation area. Frequently asked questions. You don't need to barcode scan or a barcode scanner. You should be able to just enter the chemical directly or manually into that space. The first space, when you open up the window for entering chemicals, you just enter it manually and it does the same thing. When is full inventory of labs required? Approximately every 2 years, EH&S will come around and do a re-inventorying all the chemicals. CEMS can be delegated to students or research assistant. Faculty are ultimately responsible for inventory of CEMS on the CEMS. Students' access is limited to PI/faculty laboratory. In other words, students cannot see chemicals outside the lab. Whereas faculty can. Faculty are allowed to access chemical inventory for the whole university. So if they need access to a chemical that's somewhere on campus, they'll be able to find it and contact the owner to inquire about borrowing some. Students are not allowed that access. And students, you have to ensure that your student is a very responsible individual and ensure that they are fully trained on this process to order chemicals and to enter chemicals in the CEMS. Attached is the contact information for Amy Pacheco and myself.